Welcome. So, excuse me. I'm live yet again for another session of the Hindu analysis for reading comprehension. Today, of course, is the 20th of Feb, and I have brought to you yet another very interesting article which I will help you understand, which I will help you solve, which I will help you understand from the perspective of reading comprehension. I hope you have been watching my sessions, the previous ones, and I hope you will continue to watch them and enjoy them and make me happy also. All right, guys, so let's not waste any time. I'll quickly start you off on today's session. Um, Let me quickly introduce myself. My name is Abhilasha. I've done my MBA from Jaipurya. I have 21 years of teaching and mentoring experience. And I've co authored a book called Quantitative Aptitude and Reasoning. My details, of course, are here, so you can look through this page and understand more about me. In case you wish to get in touch with me, my Telegram link, of course, is Abhilasha English, and I'm on FB and Instagram as Abhilasha Swarup. Of course, on Unacademy, my ID is Abhilasha_S. And if you wish to send me a message, feel free to drop a message on the Unacademy app anytime you want to. Uh, guys, I am launching a few courses for CAT in this next week, and therefore I thought I will quickly take you through my courses. So, my first course, which I've already started, is a vocabulary course, and that happens every day at 10. I'm starting two brand new courses for CAT 2020. One is vocabulary through past year questions, and the other is critical reasoning for CAT. And both of these batches will be weekend batches, and the classes will be Saturday and Sunday at 10 a.m. and at 4 p.m. These batches are for anyone who's interested in continuing to work while also preparing for CAT 2020. So I look forward to lots of you joining up and learning and going on this fun trip with me. Of course, you can use my referral code ABHICAT to get 10% discounts on all CAT 2020 and CAT 2021 courses. All right, guys, that's it. That's a lot about me and my courses. I hope you will continue to learn and enjoy. Uh, so for today, what is it that we are reading? We are reading something which is very interesting. We were going through the newspaper yesterday, and this article just caught my eye, and it was one of the most important things that I could feel that was there in the editorials, and that's why today's topic is Women at Arms on Supreme Court Order on Permanent Commission to Women Officer. So finally, the Supreme Court has ordered the army to offer permanent commission to women officers if they want. So all the 10 branches of the Short Service Commission, the women officers can now opt for permanent commission. They will be eligible for all the same advantages or promotions that the male counterparts are. So isn't that interesting? That is an amazing thought. After so many years and after so much effort, the lady officers will be getting their due place under the sun, and that's really commendable. So thank you, Supreme Court, for being the best Supreme Court that you could ever be. All right, so let's read the article for today. Let's read and let's understand and let's see what it says. Uh, the Supreme Court has delivered a sharp rebuke to the government by asking it to adhere to its own stated policy, articulated on February 25, 2019, on granting permanent commission to women in the Short Service Commission. So earlier, the government had said that they will grant permanent commission to women officers, but they have not done it, and Supreme Court has delivered a sharp rebuke to the government. Now, though women are absorbed into the Short Service Commission, they are now denied permission, currently denied permanent commission in most branches of the Indian Army. More importantly, in furthering the principle of equality and non discrimination enshrined in the Constitution, the court has at the same time come down heavily on the stereotypes of women and their physiological features that were consistently put across in the government submissions to deny equal opportunity to women who fulfill the same criteria their male counterparts do. So the Supreme Court has done something wonderful. They have scolded the government. They have asked the government to adhere to its own policy. See, earlier the women have been absorbed into the Short Service Commission, but permanent commission is something that they were not being granted. Now the Supreme Court has ordered the government to grant permanent commission to women officers. Also, the Supreme Court has asked the army or the government not to stereotype women and their physiological features and say that they are the weaker sex and therefore they cannot work as hard, they cannot fight as hard with the enemy. All right, let's quickly look at the words that would strike us. So, rebuke, of course, we understand means scolding, adhere, to stick, articulated, said, denied, being refused, enshrined, an integral part of something, stereotypes, consistent and constant pictures of someone, and consistently, of course, meant regularly. Questions that struck us here, and they were very important questions. Why did the Supreme Court rebuke the government? So that means probably there was some sort of a litigation that was happening, and that litigation has finally come to the Supreme Court. And the Supreme Court had, because the government was not taking any steps, the Supreme Court had to take that step and order the government to offer permanent commission to the female officers. What is a short service commission? Of course, we understand a short service commission is a short lived employment with the army. Short lived employment with the army. What is the stereotype that the government has put forward? So, probably the stereotype has to be that women are the weaker sex, they're not strong enough to live in sub zero conditions or on the enemy front lines. Probably something like this. Theme here was that the government has been stereotyping women as unfit. Words that told us about this theme were rebuke, furthering principle, denied, equal opportunity. So these actually told us that this is unfairness is being done towards the women. Okay, let's come to the second part. As long as society holds strong beliefs about gender roles, there will not be change of mindsets, the top court observed. Indeed, the court has torn into a number of contradictions inherent in the government's arguments that gravely weaken its case and expose inherent prejudices. For instance, it was submitted that deployment of women officers was not advisable in conflict zones where there was minimal facility for habitat and hygiene. Yet, the government admitted to the court that 30% of the total number of women officers are in fact deputed to conflict areas. So, see now here there is a conflict that the government is saying that women cannot be deployed in these conflict zones, and yet 30% of the female officers that are there in the army are all deployed in the combat zone. So, then what is this contradiction? In directing the government to grant permanent commission to those women who opt for it in 10 branches of the SSC, and by ordering the government to level the playing field, the court has forced acknowledgement of the sterling role women have played and continue to play, shoulder to shoulder with their male counterparts, for the security of the nation. It has also made recommendations to correct the anomalies, including in the matter of pensions due to women. So now the Supreme Court has said that if any female officer wishes for a permanent commission, then she should not be denied it. Also, they have said that they have acknowledged that the wonderful role played by the women officers, and the Supreme Court has also made recommendations that if there are any anomalies in the matter of pensions, etc., then they should be corrected. Words that strike me here, and they were contradictions, so we understand our differences. Prejudice, of course, means bias. Deployment means posted, or they are being posted or sent there. Deputed, again, posted. Sterling, of course, is very good. Counterpart, of course, is equal partners or partners. Anomaly, of course, is an aberration. Now, the questions that strike us here are, what are these contradictions that we are talking of? So, the contradiction was that on one side, the government has promised permanent commission, but on the other side, they're not doing it. They're saying women are weak, etc., etc. Why should women not be deployed in combat zone? The government says they should not be deployed because they will have hygiene and habitat problems. However, I don't think, I mean, we don't feel that is the case. The female officers also probably don't feel that is the case. How has the Supreme Court leveled the playing field? They have leveled the playing field by saying that if they are doing equal work, then why should they not get equal pay and equal facilities and equal rights? The theme here was that Supreme Court has leveled the playing field for both male and female officers. The keywords that tell us this was strong belief, prejudice, sterling role, anomalies. So all of these are pointing out to the fact that the Supreme Court is now leveling the playing field. Let's come to the third part. It is a telling state of affairs that though Prime Minister Narendra Modi announced on August 15, 2018, that permanent commission would be granted to serving women officers of the armed forces, it needed the Supreme Court to prod the government into doing it. The efforts of the litigants who have waged an uphill battle since 2003, fighting their way up from the Delhi High Court, which ruled in their favor 10 years ago, and the government willfully ignoring it all the way up to the Supreme Court deserves applause. So now see, I had earlier told you now that probably there has been a case that has been going on somewhere, and see now this has come across that Delhi High Court, they were fighting a case, they had won it 10 years ago, but the government was just ignoring it, and now they've taken the case to the Supreme Court and won the case there also. That this discrimination should happen even while the Indian Army experiences a shortfall of officers by about 10,000 in the ranks is all the more galling. So it is such a shocking thing that we have such a shortfall and yet we are not hiring female officers. It's not as if there is a surfeit of women officers. It's not that there is an excess of women officers also. A mere 1653 out of 40,825. So there's a very small number of women officers. Given the inherent flaws in the structure, implementation and change are not likely to happen soon, even given the court's deadline of 3 months. So the author here is saying that it is very strange and it is very paradoxical that even though there is such a shortage of officers, the government is not willing to recruit women officers. Two, there is such a shortage of women officers. You have 40,000 positions, and yet there are only 1,600 odd women here. So, isn't there a huge difference in terms of gender bias or in terms of gender ratio? There is. So why does the government not want to bring women officer into the fold of the army? So that is what the passage is saying. The writer also ends up by saying that because there are these inherent flaws in the structure, therefore, even though the Supreme Court has said that this has to be done in 3 months, the writer is not sure that it is going to happen anytime soon. Okay, let's quickly look at our words. So, telling is something that is very remarkable. Litigant, of course, people who are fighting a case. Wage, to fight. Discrimination, of course, is bias or prejudice. Galling is shocking or appalling. And deadline, of course, is the time limit. Now, questions that strike us here, and these are very important questions. Why did the Supreme Court have to tell the government for permanent commission? Why couldn't the government itself do it? So somewhere there isn't enough traction in the government or there isn't enough desire in the government to offer permanent commission for women. Discrimination is the root cause of all of this. Is it? Yes, probably it is. Will these changes happen quickly? No, the writer has clearly said that these changes are not likely to happen anytime soon. The themes here in this passage were what is the time frame for these changes? And the keywords that tell us this were telling, prod, uphill battle, galling, surfeit, not likely. So all of these were keywords for the passage here. All right, let's understand the main idea of the passage. So the main idea was that the Supreme Court through this case has decided to offer equal opportunity to women officers. Now the three parts of the passage had three different things that it was talking of. One, that the government had stereotyped women as unfit and the Supreme Court rebuked the government for this. The second part of the passage said that the Supreme Court has leveled the playing field for men and women, and even though the government was offering various reasons for not doing it, including saying that there are only 30% women in combat zones and we should not deploy them in the combat zones because of health and hygiene reasons. The third part of the passage said that is there going to be any time frame for these changes? The Supreme Court has given 3 months as the time frame, but probably the government is not going to do this. The government had earlier promised permanent commission, but the court had to prod it. The discrimination is terrible. There are very few women officers, and yet these changes will take some time. Okay, guys, I hope you understood this. Let's try and answer a few questions also. Because of course, if we are doing an RC, then we really need to try and find answers to some questions. So question 1 is a theme question. This one says, what does this passage talk about? So you're looking at what is the theme of the passage. Now remember, whenever you're trying to answer a theme question, you should remember that all the keywords in the passage should be covered in the theme, okay, or all the important ideas of every part of the passage should be covered in the theme, okay. So if you look at this passage, option A says women in army, and that is very, very broad, and therefore that cannot be the right answer. Option 2 says women in army and promotion. Now, is the passage only about women in army and promotion? No. Again, it is too broad. We are talking of a specific case where female officers are being offered equal opportunity by the Supreme Court, and therefore C has to be the best answer here. Okay, I hope you've understood this. Let's look at the next question. Okay, which of the following are steps asked by the Supreme Court to be performed? So what is it that the Supreme Court has asked you to do or has asked the government to do? 1. Grant permanent commission to women if they want. Yes, that is what the government has said. 2. It has asked the government to level the playing field. So that's also correct. 3. The Supreme Court has also asked the government to correct anomalies in pension matters of female officers. So all of these are steps that the government has asked the Supreme Court, that the Supreme Court has asked the government to perform. So the correct answer here should have been A, B, and C. So that will be the right answer. All right, let's look at the next question. Do you think the government wants to give equal opportunity to women? So option A, again, now when the question says, do you think? Remember, this question is now not asking about what the author thinks, but it is asking for your opinion, your thought on the topic. So does the government want to give equal opportunity to women? Yes, it does. Yeah, you can say that. But has the government actually taken any steps for that? No. And therefore, we can't say A is the right answer. B, no, it doesn't. Okay, fair enough. But the government has promised. So again, we are dicey about this answer. Option C very clearly says the government's procrastination shows that it probably doesn't want to give. Now, this one comes out with a reason why the government probably doesn't, or why we can see that the government doesn't want to give equal opportunity. So because it has been procrastinating for the last 2 years, then probably yes, it doesn't want to give. And that is why the Supreme Court had to prod it into doing this. Look at option D. The government has already given equal opportunity to women. Of course, we are not worried about this. The government hasn't done it, so this is incorrect. So this is out of scope for our passage. So the best answer here will be C, that the government's procrastination shows that it probably doesn't. Okay, let's look at the next question. Why does the author say it is all the more galling? Now, the author has said that that there is such a shortage of officers and yet discrimination is happening. Therefore, it is all the more galling. If you go back to the passage, let's quickly take it back to the passage because that's where we'll find our answer here. If you look at this, that this discrimination should happen even while the Indian Army experiences a shortfall of officers is all the more galling. So now we know our answer has to have that discrimination is happening and That is despite the shortfall of answer. So of course, A cannot be the right answer, B cannot be the right answer. Clearly, C is the right answer. When the question says, why does the author say? So now you are looking at the author's opinion, and the author's opinion is something from the passage, and that's why C has to be the right answer here. All right, let's look at the words in our passage also. So the words I've already discussed once. Let's quickly go through them. So rebuke means to scold. Adhere means to stick to. Articulated means to speak very clearly or very eloquently, or to just speak. At times, articulate also means to spell out what you want. Denied, of course, means to refuse. Enshrined means to be an integral part of something. So the right to freedom of religion is enshrined in the constitution, right? It is an integral part of the constitution. Stereotype is an image that has been created, and you follow that. So the stereotype of a woman being weak and delicate is an image that we have to shatter. Consistently, of course, is something that is happening again and again. Contradiction, of course, is differences or paradoxes that are happening. Prejudice, of course, means bias. So I am naturally prejudiced against men who feel women are weak. So I'm biased against them. Deployment, of course, means posting. So women officers also want to be deployed in combat zones. Deputed again means the same as deployed. Sterling means very good quality. So we have said in the passage that the female officers have shown that they are sterling, they're very good officers. Counterpart is equivalent. So if the male counterparts are getting a promotion, why can't the female officer get it? Anomaly, of course, is aberration, something that's unusual and different. Telling, of course, means something that is very clear and that shows something very clearly. So that the government doesn't want to do anything or didn't want to offer permanent commission to women officers is can be seen from the fact that they didn't do anything for 2 years. So that they didn't do anything for 2 years is very telling. Okay. So you see from that. Litigant, of course, is someone who's fighting a case. Waged is to fight. Discrimination, of course, is some sort of bias or prejudice. Galling, of course, is shocking or appalling. So the numbers of female officers are so few, and then the army doesn't want to take more officers is absolutely galling or shocking. Deadline, of course, is the time limit. Guys, I hope you have learnt a little bit about reading comprehension through articles. I hope you're continuing to read the Hindu every single day and spotting good articles and marking them down and reading them, creating the main idea from them, writing down the main idea. If at all you are not able to find time to do anything, the one thing you should always do after reading a passage or reading an article is in one line just write down what you felt was part of that article. So write the theme of the passage. The easiest thing to do and the most important thing and the most difficult thing to do. If you have been able to understand the passage, you will be able to understand the theme of the passage. See, today I had brought in one of the questions that said, what is this passage about? Now that was essentially a theme question. What is the main idea of the passage? And this will only come if you're able to read a passage and see what are the important thoughts that the writer is talking about, and then you're able to collate these thoughts into one single idea. So every time you read whatever, whether you're reading a novel, whether you're reading a newspaper article, at the end of your reading, in one line, summarize everything that you have read. That in itself will be one of the best things you can do for improving your reading comprehension abilities. Guys, that's it from me. I'm going to sign off now. I will leave you with my batch details. I'm starting 2 batches on the 22nd of February, one at 10 a.m. That's vocabulary through PYQs for CAT, and another one at 4 p.m. That will be critical reasoning for CAT. Guys, please do use my referral code, that's AbhiCat, and get a 10% discount on joining. For any details, you can message me on Abhilasha_S on the Unacademy app or on Telegram with Abhilasha English. I hope to see you soon. In fact, I will see you day after tomorrow with a brand new novel analysis and lots of reading to be done. If you join me on Telegram, I will send you a copy of the last book that we read, that was 1984, and maybe I'll also send you a copy of the next book that we are reading. That's it, guys. Thank you so much. I'm signing off now. I'm Abhilasha, and bye bye.